ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar my dear friends, this is 12th video on Talks with Swami Vivekananda, a direct disciple of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa. This video starts with chapter 36. Swami Vivekananda's wonderful memory, his opinion about Bharat Chandra and Michael Madhusoodan Dutt, two Bengal poets, place Belur Math, year 1901. Swamiji is in different health. At the earnest request of Swami Niranjanananda, he has been taking Kavira's medicines for 6 or 7 days. According to this treatment, the drinking of water is strictly forbidden. He has to appease his thirst with milk. The disciple has come to the mutt early in the day. Swamiji, on seeing him, spoke with affection. "Oh, you have come. Well done. I was thinking of you, disciple. I hear that you are living on milk for the last 6 or 7 days." Swamiji, yes, at the earnest entreaty of Niranjan, I had to take to this medicine. I cannot disregard their request. Disciple, you were in the habit of taking water too frequently. How could you give it up altogether? Swamiji, when I heard that according to this treatment water had to be given up, I made a firm resolve immediately not to take water. Now the idea of drinking water does not even occur to the mind. Disciple, the treatment is doing you good, I hope. Swamiji, that I don't know. I am simply obeying the orders of my brother disciples. Disciple, I think that indigenous drugs such as the Veds use are very well suited to our constitution. Swamiji, my idea is that it is better even to die under the treatment of a scientific doctor than expect recovery from the treatment of laymen who know nothing of modern science but blindly go by the ancient books without gaining a mastery of the subject, even though they may have cured a few cases. Swamiji cooked certain dishes, one of which was prepared with vermicelli. When the disciple who partook of it asked Swamiji what it was, he replied, "It is a few English earthworms which I have brought dried from London." This created a laughter among those present at the expense of the disciple. Despite his spare food and scanty sleep, Swamiji is very active. A few days ago, a new set of Encyclopedia Britannica had been bought for the mutt. Seeing the new shining volumes, the disciple said to Swamiji, "It is almost impossible to read all these books in a single lifetime." He was unaware that Swamiji had already finished 10 volumes and had begun the 11th. Swamiji, what do you say? Ask me anything you like from these 10 volumes and I will answer you all. The disciple asked in wonder, "How have you read all these books, Swamiji? Why should I ask you to question me otherwise?" Being examined, Swamiji reproduced not only the sense but at the place the very language of the difficult topic selected from each volume. The disciple, astonished, put aside the book, saying, "This is not within human power." Swamiji, do you see, simply by the observance of strict brahmacharya continence, all learning can be mastered in a very short time. One has an unfailing memory of what one hears or knows but once. It is owing to this want of continence that everything is on the brink of ruin in our country. Disciple, whatever you may say, Sir, the manifestation of such superhuman power cannot be the result of mere brahmacharya. Something else there must be. Swamiji did not say anything in reply. Then Swamiji began to explain lucidly to the disciple the arguments and conclusions about the difficult points in all philosophies. In course of the conversation, Swami Brahmananda entered the room and said to the disciple, "You are a nice man. Swamiji is unwell, and instead of trying to keep his mind cheerful by light talk, you are making him talk incessantly, raising the most abstruse subjects." The disciple was abashed, but Swamiji said to Swami Brahmananda, "Keep your regulation of Kavira's treatment aside. These are my children, and if my body goes in teaching them, I don't care." After this, some light talk followed. Then arose the topic of the place of Bharat Chandra in Bengali literature. From the beginning, Swamiji began to ridicule Bharat Chandra in various ways and satirized the life, manners, marriage customs, and other usages of the society at the time of Bharat Chandra, who was an advocate of child marriage and expressed the opinion that the poems of Bharchandra, being full of bad taste and obscenities, had not found acceptance in any cultured society except in Bengal. He said it should be guarded that such books do not come into the hands of boys. Then, raising the topic of Michael Madhusudan Dutt, he said, "That was a wonderful genius born in your province. There is not another epic in Bengali literature like the Meghnad Badh. No mistake in that, and it is difficult to come across a poem like that in the whole of modern European literature." Disciple: "But sir, I think Michael was very fond of bombastic style." Swamiji: "Well, if anybody in your country does anything new, you at once hoot him. First examine well what he is saying, but instead of that, the people of the country chase after anything which is not quite after the old modes. For example, first examine well that he is saying, but instead of that, the people of the country will chase after anything which is not quite after the old modes. For example, in order to bring to ridicule this Meghnad Bad Kavya, which is the gem of Bengali literature, the parody of Chuchundri Bad, Chuchundri Bad Kavya, the death of a mole, was written. They may caricature as much as they like, it does not matter. But the Meghnad Bad Kavya still stands unshaken in its reputation like the Himalayas, while the opinions and writings of carping critics who are busy picking holes in it have been washed away into oblivion. What will the vulgar public understand of the epic Michael has written in such a vigorous diction and an original meter? And at the present time, Grease Babu is writing wonderful books in a new meter which your otherwise pundits are criticizing and finding fault with. But does GC care for that? People will appreciate the books afterwards. Thus, speaking on the subject of Michael, he said, "Go and get the Meghnad Badkave from the library downstairs." On the disciples bringing it, he said, "Now read, let me see how you can read it." The disciple read a portion, but the reading not being to the liking of Swamiji, he took the book and showed him how to read and asked him to read again. Then he asked him, "Now can you say which portion of the kava is the best?" The disciple, failing to answer, Swamiji said, "That portion of the book which describes that Indrajit has been killed in battle and Mandodari beside herself with grief is dissuading Ramana from the battle, but Ramana, casting off forcibly from his mind the grief for his son, is firmly resolved on battle like a great hero, and forgetting in a fury of rage and vengeance all about his wife and children, is ready to rush out for battle. That is the most finely conceived portion of the book. Some come what may, I shall not forget my duty, whether the world remains or dissolves. These are the words of a great hero. Inspired by such feelings, Michael has written that portion. Saying this, Swamiji opened the particular passage and began to read it in the most impressive manner. Chapter 37. Why Atma is not perceived, though so very near. On self-realization all questionings cease. Mother Kali. Place Balurmat, year 1901. Why Atman is not perceived, though so very near. On self-realization all questioning cease. Mother Kali. Place Balurmat, year 1901. Swamiji is much better under the Kaviraj treatment. The disciple is at the mutt. While attending on Swamiji, he asked, the Atman is all pervading, the very life of the life of all beings, and so very near still. Why is it not perceived? Swamiji, do you see yourself that you have eyes? When others speak of the eyes, then you are reminded that you have got eyes. Again, when dust or sand enters into them and sets up an irritation, then you feel quite well that you have got eyes. Similarly, the realization of this universal Atma, which is inner than the innermost, is not easily attained. Reading from scriptures or hearing from the lips of the perceptor, one has some idea of it. But when the hard lashes of the bitter sorrow and pain of the world make the heart sore, when on the death of one's near and dear relatives, man thinks himself helpless, when the impenetrable and insurmountable darkness about the future life agitates his mind, then does the jiva pant for a realization of the Atma. Therefore is sorrow helpful to the knowledge of the Atma, but one should remember the bitter lessons of experience. Those who die merely suffering the woes of life like cats and dogs are then the man. He is a man who, even when agitated by the sharp interaction of pleasure and pain, is discriminating and knowing them to be of an evanescent nature, becomes passionately devoted to the Atma. This is all the difference between man and animal. That which is nearest is least observed. The Atma is the nearest of the near. Therefore, the careless and unsteady mind of man gets no clue to it. But the man who is alert, calm, self-restrained, and discriminating ignores the external world and diving more and more into the inner world realizes the glory of the Atma and becomes great. Then only he attains to the knowledge of the Atma and realizes the truth of such scriptural text as I am the Atma, thou art that, O Svetketu, and so on. Do you understand? Disciple, yes sir, but why this method of attaining self-knowledge through the path of pain and suffering? Instead of all this, it would have been well if there had been no creation at all. We were all at one time identified with the Brahma. Why then this desire for creation on the part of the Brahma? Why again this going forth of the Jiva, who is no other than Brahma, along the path of birth and death, amidst the interaction of the dualities of life? Swamiji, when a man is intoxicated, he sees many hallucinations. But when the intoxication goes off, he understands them as the imagination of a heated brain. Whatever you see of this creation which is without a beginning but has an end is only an effect of your state of intoxication. When that passes off, such questions will not arise at all. Disciple, then is there no reality in the creation and preservation, etc. of the universe? Swamiji, why should not there be? So long as you identify yourself with the body and have the ego consciousness, all these will remain. But when you are bereft of the body consciousness and devoted to the Atma and live in the Atma, then with respect to you, none of these will remain, and such questions as whether there is any creation or birth or death will have no room. Then you will have to say, कैगतं केन वा नितं कुत्रे लोन्मिदं जगत् अधुनैव भयादृष्टं नास्ति किं भयदुतं. Where is it gone? By whom is it taken? Wherein is the world merged? It was just observed by me, and is it non-existent now? What a wonder! Viveka Chudamani. Disciple, if there is no knowledge of the existence of the universe, how can it be said wherein is the world merged? Swamiji, because one has to express the idea in language, therefore that mode of expression has been used. The author has tried to express in thought and language about the state where thought or language cannot reach, and therefore he has stated the fact that the world is wholly unreal in a relative mode like the above. The world has no absolute reality which only belongs to Brahma, which is beyond the reach of mind and speech. Say what more you have to ask. Today I will put an end to all your arguments. The bell of evening service in the worship room rang at the time and everybody made for it. But the disciple stayed in Swamiji's room, noticing which Swamiji said, "Won't you go to the worship room?" Disciple, "I would like to stay here." Swamiji, "All right." After some time, the disciple, looking outside of the room, said, "It is the new moon night and all the quarters are overspread with darkness. It is the night for the worship of Mother Kali." Swamiji, without saying anything, gazed at the eastern sky for some time and said, "Do you see what a mysterious and solemn beauty there is in this darkness?" Saying this and continuing to look at the dense mass of darkness, he stood enwrapped. After some minutes had passed, Swamiji slowly began to sing a Bengali sing, "O Mother, in deep darkness flashes thy formless beauty," etc. After the song, Swamiji entered his room and sat down with an occasional word like "Mother, Mother" or "Kali, Kali" on his lips. Uneasy at Swamiji's profoundly abstracted mood, the disciple said, "Now, sir, please speak with me." Swamiji smilingly said, "Can you fathom the beauty and profundity of the Atma, whose eternal manifestation is so sweet and beautiful?" The disciple, with wished for a change of topic, noticing which, Swamiji began another song of Kali. "O Mother, thou flowing stream of nectar, in how many forms and aspects dost thou play in manifestation?" After the song he said, "This Kali is the Brahma in manifestation. Have not it you heard Sri Ramakrishna's illustration of the snake moving and the snake at rest, representing the dynamic and static aspects of the same thing? Disciple, yes sir, Swamiji. This time when I get well, I shall worship the mother with my heart's blood. Then only will she be pleased. Your Raghunandan also says like that. The mother's child shall be a hero, a Mahavira. In unhappiness, sorrow, death, and desolation, the mother's child shall always remain fearless. Chapter 38. Wanted a Saturday band of young men ready to sacrifice all for others. Manly, manliness should be the ideal remedy against low spirits and weakness of mind. Work for others, no individual liberation before the salvation of all. Influence of thoughts, place Belur Mutt, year 1901. Swamiji is staying at the Mutt nowadays. His health is not very good, but he goes out for a walk in the morning and evening. The disciple, after bowing at the feet of Swamiji, inquired about his health. Swamiji, well, this body is in such a pitiable condition, but none of you are stepping forward to help in my work. What shall I do single-handed? This time the body has come out of the soil of Bengal. So can it bear the strain of much work? You who come here are pure souls, and if you do not be my helpers in this work, what shall I do alone? Disciples are these self-sacrificing brahmacharis and sannyasis are standing behind you. Brahmacharis and sannyasis are standing behind you, and I think that each one of them can devote his life to your work. Still, why do you say so, Swamiji? Well, I want a band of young Bengal who alone are the hope of the country. My hope of the future lies in the youths of character, intelligent, renouncing all for the service of others, and obedient who can sacrifice their lives in working out of my ideas and thereby do good to themselves and the country at large. Otherwise, boys of the common run are coming in groups and will come. Dullness is written on their face, their heart is devoid of energy, their body feeble and unfit for work, and mind devoid of grace. What work will be done by these? If I get 10 or 12 boys with the faith of Nachiketa, I can turn the thoughts and pursuits of this country in a new channel. Disciples, sir, so many young men are coming to you, and do you find none among them of such a nature? Swamiji, among those who appear to me to be of good caliber, some have bound themselves by matrimony, some have sold themselves for the acquisition of worldly name, fame, or wealth, while some are of feeble bodies. The rest, who form the majority, are unable to receive any high idea. You are no doubt fit to receive my high ideas, but you are not able to work them out in the practical field. For these reasons, sometimes an anguish comes into my mind, and I think that taking this human body through untowardness of fortunes, I could not do much work. Of course, I have not yet wholly given up hopes, for by the will of God, from among these very boys may arise in time great heroes of work and spirituality who will in future work out for my ideas. Disciple, it is my firm belief that your broad and liberal ideas must find universal acceptance someday or other, for I see they are all-sided and infusing vigor into every department of thought and activity, and the people of the country are accepting either overtly or covertly your ideas and teaching them to the people. Swamiji, what matters if they acknowledge my name or not? It is enough if they accept my ideas. 99% of the sadhus, even after renouncing lust and wealth, get bound at least by the desire of name and fame. Fame, that last infirmity of noble mind, have not you read? We shall have to work giving up altogether all desire for result. People will call us both good and bad, but we shall have to work like lions, keeping the ideal before us without caring whether the wise ones praise or blame us. Disciple, what ideal should we follow now? Swamiji, you have now to make the character of Mahavira your ideal. See how at the command of Ramachandra he crossed the ocean. He had no care for life or death. He was a perfect master of his senses and wonderfully sagacious. You have now to build your life on this great ideal of personal service. Through that, all the other ideals will gradually manifest in life. Obedience to the Guru without questioning and strict observance of Brahmacharya. This is the secret of success. As on the one hand Hanuman represents the ideal of service, so on the other he represents leonine courage striking the whole world with awe. He has not the least hesitation in sacrificing his life for the good of Rama. He is supreme indifference to everything except the service of Rama, even to the attainment of the status of Brahma and Shiva, the great world gods. Only the carrying out of Sri Rama's behest is the one woe of his life. Such wholehearted devotion is wanted, playing on the khol and khartal and dancing in the frenzy of kirtan has degenerated the whole people. They are in the first place a race of dyspeptics, and if in addition to this they dance and jump in that way, how can they bear the strain? In trying to imitate the highest sadhana, the preliminary qualification for which is absolute purity, they have been swallowed in dire tamas. In every district and village you may visit, you will find only the sound of the khol and kartal. Are not are drums made in the country? Are not trumpets and cattle drums available in India? Make the boys hear the deep toned sound of these instruments. Hearing from boyhood the sound of these effeminate forms of music and listening to the kirtan, the country is well nigh converted into a country of women. What more degradation can you expect? Even the poet's imagination fails to draw this picture. The damru and horn have to be sounded, drums are to be beaten so as to raise the deep and martial notes, and with Mahavira, Mahavira on our lips and shouting Hare Hara, Vyom Yom, the quarters are to be reverberated. The music which awakens only the softer feelings of man is to be stopped now for some time, stopping the light tunes such as Khil and Tappa for some time. The people are to be accustomed to hear the Drupad music through the thunder roll of the dignified Vedic hymns. Life is to be brought back into the country. In everything, the austere spirit of heroic manhood is to be revived. In following such an ideal lies the good of the people and the country. If you can build your character after such an ideal, then a thousand others will follow. But take care that you do not swerve an inch from the ideal. Never lose heart in eating, dressing, or lying, in singing or playing, in enjoyment or disease. Always manifest the highest moral grace. Then only will you attain the grace of Mahashakti, the Divine Mother. Disciple, sir, at times I am overcome by low spirits, I don't know how. Swamiji, then think like this: whose child am I? I associate with him, and shall I have such weak mindedness and lowness of spirits? Stamping down such weakness of mind and heart, stand up saying, I am possessed of heroism, I am possessed of a steady intellect, I am knower of Brahma, a man of illumination. Be fully conscious of your dignity by remembering, I am the disciple of such and such who is is the companion in life of Sri Ramakrishna, the conqueror of lust and wealth. This will produce a good effect. He who has not this pride has no awakening of the Brahma within him. Have not you heard Ram Prasad's song? He used to say, "Whom do I fear in the world whose sovereign is the Divine Mother?" Keep such a pride always awake in the mind, then weakness of mind and heart will no longer be able to approach you. Never allow weakness to overtake your mind. Remember Mahavira, remember the Divine Mother, and you will see that all weakness, all cowardice will vanish at once. Saying these words, Swamiji came downstairs and took his accustomed seat on a cot in the courtyard. Then, addressing the assembled sannyasis and brahmacharis, he said, "Here is the unveiled presence of the Brahma. Fie upon those who, disregarding it, set their mind on other things. Ah, here is the Brahma as palpable as a fruit in one's palm. Don't you see here?" These words were spoken in such an appealing way that everyone stood motionless like a figure painted on canvas and felt as if he were suddenly drawn into the depth of meditation. After some time, the tension of feeling passed and they regained their normal consciousness. Next, in the course of a walk, Swamiji spoke to the disciple. "Did you see how everybody had to be concentrated today? These are all children of Sri Ramakrishna, and on the very uttering of the words, they felt the truth." Disciple, sir, not to speak of them, even my heart was overflowing with an unearthly bliss, but now it appears like a vanished dream. Swamiji, everything will come in time. Now go on working. Set yourself to some work for the good of man, sunk in ignorance and delusion. You will see that such experiences will come of themselves. Disciple, I feel nervous to enter into its labyrinths, neither have I strength. The scriptures also say, "Impenetrable is the path of karma." Swamiji, what do you like to do then? Disciple, to live and hold a discussion with one like you who has realized the truth of all scriptures, and through hearing, thinking, and meditating on the truth to realize the Brahma in this very life. I have no enthusiasm nor perhaps the strength for anything else. Swamiji, if you love that well, you can go on doing it and speak your thoughts and conclusions about the Shastras to others. It will benefit them so long as there is the body. One cannot live without doing some work or other. Therefore, one should do such work as is conducive to the good of others. Your own realizations and conclusions about scriptural truths may benefit many a seeker after truth. Put them into writing, which may help many others. Disciple, first let me realize the truth when I shall write. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, "Without the badge of authority, none will listen to you." Swamiji, there may be many in the world who have got stuck in that stage of spiritual discipline and reasoning through which you are passing without being able to pass beyond that stage. Your experience and way of thinking, if recorded, may be of benefit to them. At least if you put down in easy language the substance of the discussions which you hold with the sadhus of this mutt, it may help many. Disciple, since you are wishing it, I shall try to do it. Swamiji, what is the good of that spiritual practice or realization which does not benefit others, does not conduce to the well-being of the people sunk in ignorance and delusion, does not help in rescuing them from the clutches of lust and wealth? Do you think so long as one jiva endures in bondage you will have any liberation? So long as he is not liberated, it may take several lifetimes. You will have to be born to help him, to make him realize the Brahma. Every jiva is part of yourself, which is the rationale of all work for others. As you desire the wholehearted good of your wife and children, knowing them to be your own, so when a like amount of love and attraction for every jiva will awaken in you, then I shall know that the Brahma is awakening in you not a moment before. When this feeling of the all-round good of all without respect to caste or color will awaken in your heart, then I shall know you are advancing towards the ideal disciple. Sir, it is a most tremendous statement that without the salvation of all, there shall be no salvation for an individual. I have never heard of such a wonderful proposition. Swamiji, there is a class of Vedantists who hold such a view. They say that individual liberation is not the real and perfect form of liberation, but universal and collective liberation is true mukti. Of course, both merits and defects can be pointed out in that view. Disciple, according to Vedanta, the state of individualized existence is the root of bondage, and the infinite intelligence through desire and effects of work appears bound in that limiting condition. When by means of discrimination that limiting condition vanishes and the jiva is bereft of all adjuncts, then how can there be bondage for the Atma, which is of the essence of transcendent intelligence? He for whom the idea of the Jiva and the world is a persisting reality may think that without the liberation of all he has no liberation. But when the mind becomes bereft of all limiting adjuncts and is merged in the Brahma, where is there an indifferentiation for him? So nothing can operate as a bar to his mukti. Swamiji, yes, what you say is right, and most Vedantins hold that view, which is also flawless. In that view, individual liberation is not bad, but just consider the greatness of his heart who thinks that he will take the whole universe with him to liberation. Disciple, sir, it may indicate boldness of heart, but it is not supported by the scriptures. Swamiji was in an abstracted mood and did not listen to the words. After some time he said, day and night think and meditate on the Brahma, meditate with great one-pointedness of mind, and during the time of awakeness to outward life, either do some work for the sake of others or repeat it in your mind, let good happen to jivas and the world. Let the mind of all flow in the direction of Brahma. By such a continuous current of thought, even the world will be benefited. Nothing good in the world becomes fruitless, be it work or thought. Your thought currents will perhaps rouse the religious feelings of someone in America. Disciple, sir, please bless me that my mind may be concentrated on the truth. Swamiji, so it will be. If you have earnestness of desire, it will certainly be. Chapter 39. Swami Vivekananda's plan to celebrate Durga Puja at Belur Mutt. His visit to the temple at Kalighat, place the Mutt, Belur, year 1901. At the time the Belur Mutt was established, many among the Orthodox Hindus were wont to make sharp criticism of the ways of life in the Mutt. Hearing the report of such criticism from the disciple, Swamiji would say in the words of the couplet of Tulsidas, the elephant passes through the marketplace and 1,000 curs begin barking after him. So the sadhus have no ill feeling when worldly people slander them. Or again, he would say, without persecution, no beneficent idea can enter into the heart of a society. He would exhort everybody, go on working without an eye to result. One day you are sure to reap the fruits of it. Again, on the lips of Swamiji were very often heard the words of the Gita, a doer of good never comes to grief, my son. In May or June 1901, seeing the disciple at the mutt, Swamiji said, "Bring me a copy of Ashta Vimashti Tattva, 28 categories of Raghu Nandan at an early date." Disciple: Yes, sir, but what will you do with the Raghunandan Smriti, which is the present educated India calls a heap of superstition? Swamiji: Why? Raghunandan was a wonderful scholar of his time. Collecting the ancient Smriti, he codified the customs and observances of the Hindus, adapting them to the needs of the changed times and circumstances. All Bengalis following the rules laid down by him, but in the iron grip of his rules, regulating the life of a Hindu from conception to death. The Hindu society was much oppressed in matters of eating and sleeping, in even the ordinary functions of life, not to speak of the important ones. He tried to regulate everyone by rules in the altered circumstances of the times that did not last long. At all times, in all countries, the Karmakanda, comprising the social customs and observances, changes forms. Only the Jankanda endures. Even in the Vedic age, you find that the rituals gradually changed in form, but the philosophic portion of the Upanishads has remained unchanged up till now. Only there have been many interpreters, that's all. Disciple: What will you do with the Smriti of Raghunandan? Swamiji: This time I have a desire to celebrate the Durga Puja. If the expenses are forthcoming, I shall worship the Mahamaya. Therefore, I have a mind to read the ceremonial forms of that worship. When you come to the mutt next Sunday, you must get a copy of the book with you. Disciple: All right, sir. Next Saturday, the disciple brought a copy of the book, and Swamiji was much pleased to get it. Meeting the disciple a week after this, he said, I have finished the Raghunandan Smriti presented by you. If possible, I shall celebrate the puja of the Divine Mother. The Durga Puja took place with great eclat at the proper time. Shortly after this, Swamiji performed a homa before the Mother Kali at Kali Ghat. Referring to this incident, he spoke to the disciple. Well, I was glad to see that there was yet a liberality of view at Kalighat. The temple authorities did not object in the least to my entering the temple, though they knew that I was a man who had returned from the west. On the contrary, they very cordially took me into the holy precincts and helped me to worship the Mother to my heart's content. Chapter 40. The last birthday anniversary of Sri Ramakrishna that Swami Vivekananda saw. Swami Vivekananda's ideas as to how the celebration should take place, how fair a guru can help, how far a guru can help, what is meant by grace. Swami Vivekananda's vision of Sri Ramakrishna placed the Belur Mutt year 1902. Today is the anniversary celebration of Sri Ramakrishna, the last that Swamiji ever saw. The disciple presented an invocatory hymn on Sri Ramakrishna to Swamiji. He then proceeded to rub Swamiji's feet gently. Swamiji, before starting to read the poem, spoke to him. Do it very gently, as the feet have become very tender. After reading the poem, Swamiji said, It is well done. Swamiji's illness had increased so much that the disciple, observing it, felt sore at heart. Swamiji's understanding his inner feeling said, What are you thinking? This body is born and it will die. If I have been able to instill a few of my ideas into you all, then I shall know that my birth has not been in vain. Disciple, are we fit objects of your grace? If you, without taking my fitness into consideration, bless me, then I I will consider myself pleased. Swamiji, always remember that renunciation is the root idea. Unless one is initiated into this idea, not even Brahma and the world gods have the power to attain it, attain mukti. Disciple, it is a matter of deep regret that even bearing this from you almost every day, I have not been able to realize it. Swamiji, renunciation must come, but in the fullness of time. Kalinatamani Vinduti. In the fullness of time, one attains to knowledge within himself. When the few sanskaras of previous life are spent, then renunciation sprouts up in the heart. After some time, he said, "Why should you go outside and see the big concourse of people? Stay with me now and ask Niranjan to sit at the door so that nobody may disturb me today." Then the following conversation took place between Swamiji and the disciple. Swamiji, I think that it will be better if from now the anniversary is celebrated in a different way. The celebration should extend to 4 or 5 days instead of one. On the first day, there may be study and interpretation of scriptures. On the second, discussion on the Vedas and the Vedanta and solution of the problems in connection with them. On the third day, there may be a question class. The fourth day may be fixed for lectures. On the last day, there will be a festival on the present lines, just as the Durga Puja extends for 4 or 5 days. Of course, if the celebration is on the above lines, none except the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna will be able to attend on the other days except the last. But that does not matter. A large promiscuous crowd of people does not mean a great propagation of the message of Sri Ramakrishna. Disciple, sir, it is a beautiful idea. Next time it may be done according to your wishes. Swamiji, now my son, you all will carry them out. I have no more inclination for these things. Disciple, sir, this year many kirtan parties have come. Hearing these words, Swamiji stood up holding the iron bars of the window and looked at the assembled crowd of devotees. After some time, he sat down. Swamiji, you are the actors in the divine Leela of Sri Ramakrishna. After this, not to speak of ours, people will take your names also. These hymns which you are writing will afterwards be read by people for the acquirement of love and knowledge. Know that the attainment of the knowledge of the Atma is the highest object of life. If you have devotion for the avatars who are the world teachers, that knowledge will manifest of itself in time. Disciple, sir, shall I attain to such knowledge? Swamiji, by the blessings of Sri Ramakrishna, you shall attain to divine love and knowledge. You will not find much happiness in the worldly life. Disciple, sir, if you condescend to destroy the weakness of my mind, then only there is hope for me. Swamiji, what fear when you have chanced to come here, you shall be free. Disciple, with great entreaty, you must save me and life from ignorance in this very life. Swamiji, say, who can save anybody? The Guru can only take away some covering veils. When these veils are removed, the Atma shines in its own glory and manifest like the sun. Disciple, then why do we find mention of grace in the scripture? Swamiji, grace means this: he who has realized the Atma becomes a storehouse of great power, making him the center, and with a certain radius a circle is formed, and whoever comes within the circle becomes animated with the ideas of that saint, that is, they are overwhelmed by his ideas. Thus, without much religious striving, they inherit the results of wonderful spirituality. If you call this a grace, you may do it. Disciple, is there no other grace than this? Swamiji, yes, there is. When the Avatara comes, then with him are born liberated persons as helpers in his world play. Only the Avatara has the power to dispel the darkness of a million souls and give them salvation in one life. This is known as grace. Do you understand? Disciple, yes, sir. But what is the way for those who have not been blessed with the sight of him? Swamiji, the way for them is to call on him. Calling on him, many are blessed with his vision, can see him in a human form just like ours and obtain his grace. Disciple, have you ever had a vision of Sri Ramakrishna after his passing away? Swamiji, after his leaving the body, I associated for some time with the Pavahari Baba of Ghazipur. There was a garden not far distant from his asrama where I lived. People used to say it was a haunted garden, but as you know, I am a sort of demon myself and have not much fear of ghosts. In that garden, there were many lemon trees which bore numerous fruits. At that time, I was suffering from diarrhea, and there no food could be had except bread. So, to increase the digestive powers, I used to take plenty of lemons. Mixing with Pavahari Baba, I liked him very much and he also came to love me deeply. One day I thought that I did not learn any art for making this weak body strong. After living with Sri Ramakrishna for so many years, I had heard that Pavahari Baba knew the science of Hatha Yoga. So I thought I would learn the practices of Hatha Yoga from him and through them strengthen the body. You know, I have a dogged resolution, and whatever I set my heart on, I always carry out. On the eve of the day on which I was to take initiation, I was lying on a cot thinking, and just then I saw the form of Sri Ramakrishna standing on my right side, looking steadfastly at me as if very much grieved. I had dedicated myself to him, and at the thought that I was taking another Guru, I was much ashamed and kept looking at him. Thus, perhaps 2 or 3 hours passed, but no words escaped from my mouth. Then he just disappeared all on a sudden. My mind became upset seeing Ramakrishna that night, so I postponed the idea of initiation from Pavhari Baba for the day. After a day or two, again the idea of initiation from Pavhari Baba arose in the mind, and again in the night there was the appearance of Sri Ramakrishna as on the previous occasion. Thus, when for several nights in succession I got the vision of Sri Ramakrishna, I gave up the idea of initiation altogether, thinking that as every time I resolved on it I was getting such a vision, then no good but harm would come from it. After some time he addressed the disciples saying, those who have seen Sri Ramakrishna are really blessed. Their family and birth have become purified by it. All of you will also get his vision. When you have come here, then you are very near to him. Nobody has been able to understand who came on earth as Sri Ramakrishna. Even his own nearest devotees have got no real clue to it. Only some have got a little inkling of it. All will understand it afterward. The conversation was thus going on when Swami Niranjanananda knocked at the door. The disciple rose and inquired who has come. Swami Niranjanananda said, Sister Nivedita and some other English ladies. They were admitted into the room, sat on the floor and inquired about the health of Swamiji. After a few more words, they went away. Then Swamiji said to the disciples, see how cultured they are. If they were Bengalis, they would have made me talk at least for half an hour, even finding me unwell. It is about 2:30 now, and there is a great gathering of people on the outside. Swamiji, understanding the disciples' mind, said, just go and have a look around, but come back soon. So I end this video here. Next video we'll start with chapter number 41, page 294. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar, my dear friends.